So far, though.
Okay. In August of 2000, my grandpa was in a car accident, and he spent a good time in the ICU. And when he was well enough to get out of the ICU, his HMO health insurance threw him in a nursing home. Over the next 3 months in the nursing home, he died a slow and painful death. Now, here's the question. Who killed him? Was it the government, or was it the nursing home? So today I'm going to inform you of elder abuse in nursing homes, because at some point in our lives, we all are going to have to make the decision to either put ourselves or a loved one in a nursing home. Today I'll do this through explaining how the elderly are abused, why they are abused, and why the laws that are supposed to protect them do not. So first, let me tell you of the abuse the elderly may face. The most common injuries are pressure sores, which are more commonly known as bed sores, contractures, which is a loss of motion, malnutrition, dehydration, falls, and injuries due to medication errors. My grandpa endured many of these injuries, and he had bed sores that turned into gangrene. He was highly malnutritioned. He suffered broken bones due to being tied down to his bed at night, and a man would come in and beat him, and he was never given his pain meds. This is only, my grandpa's story, but he's not the only one that was abused. The New York Times did an expose where a 70-year-old man who was diabetic and had dementia was bedridden and depended on nurses to turn him over so that he wouldn't get bed sores. But hidden cameras revealed that nurses rarely came, and instead they watched videos, socialized, and allowed his wounds to fester. These same cameras also caught instances of where patients sat in their own urine and feces for several hours and were just ignored. So these are only two stories, and the stories can go on and on and on. We don't have time for that today. So we now know what types of abuse the elderly are subjected to. However, the big question is why? Why are they abused? Well, the biggest problem is understaffing. Researchers at the University of California, San Francisco, analyzed nursing home staffing from 1999 through 2005 and found that the average number of hours per resident day for registered nurses had declined from 0.8 hours in 1999 to 0.6 hours in 2005. And in 2005, the number of nursing staff hours per day totaled 3.7 hours a day. So basically what this statistic all comes down to is the higher number of staff hours, the better the care. The lower number of staff hours, the worse the care becomes. But not only are they understaffed, but the staff that is there falsify records. A former nursing home employee revealed in Time magazine that she would falsify records so when state inspectors would show up for their predictably timed annual visits, everything would seem right with the patients. She states the attitude was to put a Band-Aid on it until the state left and it'd go back to normal, or go back to the way things were. So why not just do your job? You're there to get paid for it, right? Well, instead, that same New York Times expose of the 70-year-old man had revealed staff members routinely moving call bells out of patients' reach so they could watch movies, sleep, socialize, rather than check on patients and give them medicine. So basically, if we take a little recap here, nursing homes are understaffed, the staff refuse to do their job so they can have fun and leisure time, and they still get paid for it. So now we know why the elderly are abused, how they are abused. However, why do the laws not protect them? Congress enacted regulations for nursing homes in the late 60s and early 70s, and these laws largely focus on the home's actual capacity to provide care and not on the quality of care. And in 1987, the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act was passed, which stated that residents are entitled to attain and maintain the highest practical physical, mental, and psychosocial well-being, and nursing homes that receive Medicare or Medicaid funds must abide by the regulations, or they will be receive violations, and they're subject to sanctions. These laws look good on paper, however, enforcing them is a different story. And here's why. Nursing homes are for profit. They're all about profits. They don't care about care. They're there to make money and not provide care for the elderly. And the government also is a big factor. They do not enforce the laws, and I mean they do not enforce the laws, even though they pay for the elderly to be in nursing homes. And a state inspector revealed in Time magazine that she would write down violations. The nursing homes complain, and superiors keep the inspectors from going back, and if they did, their citations would be dismissed. So basically, no one's required to do their job. The state doesn't do their job, the nursing homes don't do their job, and everyone gets paid for it. So, in conclusion, I would like, today I informed you of how the elderly are abused, why they're abused, and why the laws don't protect them. And so all I ask is that if you have to send a loved one or yourself to a nursing home, to do your research, because not all nursing homes are bad. There are some that actually do their job. And if abuse is suspected, to speak up about it. Nothing's going to be done unless you speak up and act on it. And trust me, the guilt that you feel for sending a loved one to a nursing home that dies, it's not a guilt that you want to live with.
I'm sorry, Mike, what did you think?
I thought it was pretty well organized, maybe a little bit blunt at some points. Just pointing out, okay, now I'm going to talk about this. It was pretty well presented as well. Your speech was pretty clear. You vocalized it really well. The only problems that I noticed really were staring at the podium quite a lot, and the actual call to action and the attempt to actually persuade us was pretty minimal and shoved right at the end. Otherwise, pretty good speech, very clear, very informative.
All right, well, I'm glad that you ended with that last statement, because that's the first issue that I've got, is that it's phrased in the specific purpose statement as an informative, and you need to make it persuasive. Now, you basically have a problem that you're talking about, so you have to inform us what the problem is, but convincing us that the problem is widespread, that it's significant, that it's something that we should be concerned with, that's where the persuasive element comes in. Now, you do that during the body of the speech, so when I say that you set it up as an informative, that doesn't mean that it's entirely informative, but it does mean that the language creates that impression at the beginning of the speech. Later on in the presentation, you do a pretty good job giving us some emotional appeals, also trying to make some generalizations about the nature of the nursing homes. Although you do make some very sweeping statements about nursing homes, and I do think that that's a little contradictory, because at one point you say none of them give a damn about care, they only care about the profits, and then right at the end of the speech you're saying, so look for a good nursing home as opposed to one of those ones that is short-sighted and only cares about profits. I thought, well, wait a second, don't they all just care about profits? None of them care about the care that's going on. You need to be a little more careful in developing that solution, and that's something that Mike pointed out in his comment just now, that there is there's not really enough of development to that issue. There were some good emotional appeals that were in the presentation. The story that you had with your grandfather is a